Over the last week, we saw arguably the best team in footy that we've seen for a while cement themselves atop of the ladder. Geelong is your minor premierships, but that kind of spells disaster in a stat we'll get to just a little bit later. In one of the second games of the round, we saw what I would say is the worst first half of footy, maybe just half in general, that we've seen all year long. Because if you liked offense, then GWS versus the Doggies was not the game for you. And we saw a couple teams fully kind of stake their claim as the best team, maybe behind Geelong, or maybe even better than Geelong, heading into the last round of the season. And also, I feel like 90% of the league, maybe even more, was really happy to see your Sydney Swans take down the Collingwood Magpies as they finally lose. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Ross Allen, joined alongside by the best in the business, Coach Johnny Hess. And Coach, how are we feeling this round?
Oh, this was a very interesting round for me, especially considering, I don't know, Ross, did you double check your tips? Both you and I did quite well in our tipping this weekend.
It wasn't too bad, wasn't it? I mean,
it was 2 9-0s. We both tipped all 9 games correctly. I sat on the end of my seat.
Also to the fantasy football thing too.
Yeah, well, do we want to humble brag on that? The fact that both you and I again for the second straight year have made it into our respective grand finals, and I even got a laugh.
I think it's funny.
Well, did you see who I beat to get to the grand final? And
you beat Brad, right?
I beat Brad by 3 points.
Was that like a disposal or something like that?
Yep. As if I remember correctly in our score thing, every handball is worth 3 points. So
you beat my handball.
One handball in one of the games got me that win, and I still all I know is there was a few expletives that were sent to me via text message from Brad a little bit.
Poor Brad.
But
no, I just thought it was hilarious how
we
made it in our fantasy football league for the second year in a row. That's 2 years in a row. I've been playing this for only 2 years, and it's happened both times. It's just like it almost makes too much sense because you actually know footy. I just pretend like I do. So that's why I get into the losers bracket, Granny, and that's why you get into the winners bracket, Granny.
Well, it's really interesting too because the grand final is the same grand final that we had last year in our same fantasy league. So it's very fun. So a huge shout out to Lee again, as he joked on our Twitter group. He goes, "Oh my God, I get Donnie again in the grand final. Hopefully this year goes better," because it was the only time I beat him. That we played twice last year in our thing, and he beat me both times, and I somehow got away and won in the grand final. So it'll be interesting. I'm a little worried because if I saw right, I think one of my guys has a concussion. So I made a few changes to my roster, but it's going to be very, very difficult when he's got some guys that are playing really well, like Dawson, Nick Blakey, Daniel Rowley, Marcus Bontempelli, which I'll even raise my hand. Idiot me traded him, so I'm paying for that one. But very interesting looking at his roster right now. We'll definitely have to see is that with both Isaac Smith and Mitch Duncan both sat last week, and so we'll have to see if both of them are playing this round since the Cats have wrapped everything up and teams won't come out for the next couple of days. So it'll be interesting. But I'm not gonna brag. I got lucky. I'm getting lucky a little bit because I probably should have lost. I probably should have lost in the semifinal round, not the preliminaries, to Gil Griffin, who I ended up getting that one by like 12. So I've been pulling Collingwoods on this way up. So if I get absolutely destroyed with Lee, it wouldn't shock me. So,
hey, it doesn't matter. You're still going up there. That's really what counts.
My team has changed so much this year. I've had so much turnover in this team. It's not even fun.
Dude, just even the first two rounds, I had a brand new team. So I'm just impressed I've even made it this far. But what we got in store for you guys is that we're going to talk the biggest prove it winner of this round. There's a new contender in the Clarko runnings, and one team has dropped out. So we're down to just 2 right now. Or are we actually going to have a third step up once again at the little I don't know if we have a name for it in the AFL, but in the NFL, the Monday after the regular season is called Black Monday because of all the coaches getting canned. We might be able to see something like that. Of course, we're going to talk about Patrick Cripps because if you don't know what the whole situation in arguable crap storm surrounding him is by now, you've probably been living under a rock. And we're going to take a look at maybe the best minor premier winner over the last 5 seasons. And the heartache that this specific team's fans have had to endure this year. But before we get into that, before we get into Hess's headlines, I'm tired from work. So what that means is it's time for I'm going to do some smelling salts for you guys. This stuff is horrible. And it's amazing. And we're just going to see if it can carry me through this show. So with that being said, bottoms up. Oh, I can smell it from here. It's like a foot away from my face. I forgot how great this stuff was. All right, here we go, boys.
All right. This is off to a rip-roaring start.
Oh, we're good, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it. I catch my breath. For those who don't know, this stuff is awesome. It's called Atomic Rhino. So if the name doesn't give it away, all of that stuff hits. That's the headlines.
All right, a little bit of normality, while he regains his sanity a little bit. So
I feel great now.
We jump into the headlines, and we start off with Saints stumble, almost ending their chances of finals. As I look at it statistically, this is darn near impossible for them to get in. There is still a mathematical chance, so there still is a chance, but I highly doubt that the Saints will get themselves into the finals. We jump to it as kind of mentioned earlier. Dogs win in an ugly game to keep slim finals chances still alive. Cats claim minor premiership after smashing Suns, as the Suns have kind of fallen away after signing Stewie Dew to now start a little bit of the questions of, did they sign Stewie Dew a tiny bit early? These get miracle Pickett goal to force Carlton to must win in final round game. In an absolutely incredible scene. Again, a lot like Essendon, Carlton probably shouldn't have lost that game, but a few bounces just the right way, and Pickett finds the big sticks, and Carlton now goes into a crazy game in round 23, needing to win to keep their chances of staying in the finals alive. And last but not least, it was kind of mentioned earlier, Pies crumble under Swans pressure, ending the win streak at 11. So an incredible game up at the SCG. I don't think this was purely that the Pies were overrated. We can discuss this a little bit later in the episode. I think the Pies are still strong. I think they were missing a few key guys. Ginnivan goes down with a hamstring injury, which we can discuss that little drama that might have happened a little bit later as well. DeGoey misses because of a hip flexor injury that they just weren't confident of trying to get him through. So I don't think the Pies are pretenders. I think the Pies they caught a good Swans team. They were down a little bit, and it just kind of snowballed on them a little bit. So let's not rule out the Pies. I still think the Pies play really good footy. We'll have to see, can they catch that momentum, or do they slip up again this week against Carlton? So a fascinating round 23 we step into.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be insane. Donnie with a little bit of a preview of what we're going to have in our overreactions here. And just by saying that, it's like, by you probably put that in such the nicest way possible, just by calling that Dogs-Giants game ugly. I feel like there's a lot of other adjectives
you got to be genteel sometimes. You got to be genteel.
Just horrible, disgusting, disrespectful is probably one that jumps to my mind. Just gross, sickening, downright awful.
Atrocious.
I hated that. Oh, atrocious. Now that's a good word. I'll break out my. If I was a dinosaur, I would be a thesaurus, and I'll have to break that one out here for one of these. Come on, for that line. I thought that was fine. Come on.
Too many Billy Brownless jokes have kind of ruined that one for me a little bit. So. A couple weeks ago, he goes, I swallowed a dictionary and it left me with a sore thesaurus.
That just wasn't good.
It's a dad joke. It's so bad. So,
but that's not even just dad joke. That's just bad joke. No, nothing for the. Oh, I am wasting these on Donnie. I am just gonna move on. I hope you guys are laughing at this one because my co-host over here is not giving me a freaking bone. All right,
sorry.
It's time for overreactions, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for me to throw a few statements out there into the world and into the ether, or to just Donnie's ears more specifically, and your guys over there as well. And he's going to tell me if they're overreactions or if there's actually some truth in them. And start us off. All right, Tigers fans, you guys have, you might not have been feeling this kind of hope that you were maybe like 4 rounds ago, but now you guys have just been rattling off wins. Richmond is not necessarily looking like the Richmond of old, but they're certainly looking like that team that's going to be scary to for anyone to go against come finals, especially after they are on a 4-game win streak, but let's call it a 4-game point streak. Shout out to that draw that they should have won too. They're now sitting pretty at the 7th spot of the ladder when we think that they're going to be fighting to make the 8. Also, it's hoping that Carlton has sucked. All right. But statement number 1, Donnie, after their big time win over Hawthorn this round, I believe they just freaking dominated them, didn't they? But with that being said, Richmond is how do I want to word this? Oh, yeah, let's do that. Brain fart. Love you guys. Richmond had the biggest prove it win this round. Overreaction or not?
Oh man, this is hard for me because honestly, statistically and just wow factor of the final score, it's hard to argue. But I'm going to say this is an overreaction because, and again, all due respect to Hawthorn fans in here, it was Hawthorn. It's not like they did this to a Melbourne, a Western Bulldogs, a Collingwood, a Carlton, a Brisbane. They did it to Hawthorn. And again, all due respect, I think Hawthorn's young team, they're hitting a wall, and they're hitting a wall at the worst possible time, because I thought they would be a team that would, if they could maintain what they played earlier in the season, they could be a threat. They could be a team that would really push teams late in the season and be kind of that manipulator of the finals, because they're that team that if you don't play well against them, they could beat you, which could then cost you a final spot. And they have not been that. And Richmond is good. Richmond is really good. They can score. My worry is that Dylan Grimes' injury, will it come back to haunt them when they're playing teams that are just as good as they are? Again, is Hawthorn as good as Richmond right now? No, they aren't. They simply aren't. So I don't like putting a lot of stock into it. If I had to say the best prove-it game, many would say it was Sydney. You beat a Collingwood team.
You're not homer for saying that.
You beat, and again, I wasn't trying to homer it. It was, if you really think about it, it was the most impressive win. You beat a team that seemed to always find a way to win, even though minimalistically they were winning. So you can't take that away from them. And Gold Coast didn't beat the Sun. Gold Coast didn't beat the Cats. So your two best win streaks, one survived, one didn't, and the one that lost to a team that now so many pundits are jumping on. It's the Cats and the Swans in the grand final. I can't tell you how many people in their podcast, that's one of the first things they say after this last round. One of the biggest storylines is are we headed for a Swans Cats grand final? Because
I totally didn't have that a few rounds ago.
They're the two hottest teams going into the finals right now. Neither team, if you look at it, Sydney's is probably the tougher test playing St. Kilda. St. Kilda still has a shot, but they got to beat the Swans by 150. And hope Western Bull. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Statistically and mathematically, it's still possible. It probably won't happen. Awesome. Where Geelong, if you really look at it, they've got the cupcake of all cupcakes. They've got West Coast at home at GMHBA Stadium.
Also, it really doesn't matter if they win or lose this game anyway.
Oh no, the minor premiership is locked up. They're going to be the number 1 overall seed. But the main issue, again, and we can discuss it in the finals preview, is are Geelong going to get a little bit of the shaft when it comes to location? Because if they play Collingwood 1-4, it's going to be at the MCG. That's just
that's so crappy.
Yep, it's the way.
It's also, if you haven't heard the rant yet, go ahead. I think I've been like 4 weeks ago. Go on YouTube. You can find the short.
It's been a bit, and that's also the one where I got called a suck for saying that the CEO had sold the games to the MCG. Again, I'd love to see. Actually love to see the factual article proving that, especially considering every article that I saw that the CEO for Geelong is asked for all 11 home games to be a GMHBA last year and the previous year, not just because of the. So I don't know. We won't get into that, but no, I honestly, Richmond, it's a big win. I just don't see it as the prove it win that I think some people think it is. I want to see, are they dangerous going into the finals? Absolutely, because there's a proven record. I'm just not sure this is the Richmond of those teams. So I'm still a little leery on Richmond a little bit. I'm not going to jump on Richmond could be this scary outside the 8, outside the top 4 final flag contender, because it's tough winning 4 games in a row, especially with a team that still does have some injury issues. And is Dusty going to be Dusty off of 6 weeks off, only training, and then trying to go right into finals, which is a whole nother animal?
That's the question. But if anyone could do it, and like any active player could do it, it's probably going to be Dusty with his finals pedigree. And to your point with Sydney having the biggest prove it win of the round, it's kind of hard to argue otherwise. You can argue Richmond, I think, just because of the giant port margin there. But besides, I mean, yeah, Port Adelaide beating Essendon, but like who cares about that? Yeah, Freo beating West Coast, but also Freo looked like crap. You have Melbourne getting lucky against Carlton. You have Adelaide, North Melbourne. Who the hell cares about that one? Geelong beating Gold Coast. I love you, Gold Coast. You guys know this. You've been listening for any amount of time. You know I love Gold Coast. But also, Geelong beat Gold Coast. I saw an article right there. The Doggies beat the Giants in the worst game, one of the worst games I've seen all year. And Brisbane beat St Kilda. St Kilda, the team that is known for not being clutch at all. When you look up what word do you want to say? When you look up anti-clutch in the dictionary, you see St. Kilda's shield right there, because they're not great at the end of the season. We saw that last year too. I'm so sorry, St. Kilda. I didn't mean to go in on you like that one, but it's also easy to when you're kind of setting yourself up for failure when you do that. But going into something that we kind of hit on the headlines, statement number 2 is that Collingwood proved that they're just pretenders. I know 99% of the people in the footy world will love to hear this, but Donnie, your thoughts?
Oh man, I watched this game. Collingwood is good. They're tough. They're a tough footy team. The all duck no dinner thing was brought up by a couple of people going, did Sydney prove that Langdon was right? That if you can shut down their quick ball movement, if you can shut down their chaos footy, that they are a one-trick pony. I don't think so. I think this was a combination. Of Sydney took away Collingwood's best ability to win. Collingwood did what they could, but Sydney also did really well at keeping Collingwood from the footy. They played a lot of really good tempo footy. They kept possession. They chip kicked when they needed to. They attack kicked when they needed to. Collingwood, I think they played actually quite well. It's just they ran into a Sydney team that, and again, you almost look at it too. You look at the scoreboard. Sydney kicked straight. This could have been even uglier than it was. I mean, so it's another one of those where Sydney siders look at it and go, there was almost a bigger percentage boost sitting there if they could kick straight. They had a few posters and had a few wayward shots a little bit. So I'm going to say this is an overreaction. They're pretenders. I want to see how they respond this week. Like if Carlton comes out and blows them out with the skeleton crew that they have because of the injuries and all the issues.
Yeah.
If this game becomes a blowout, Carlton's way over Collingwood, then the pretender moniker I think could be hung on Collingwood, because then I look at it as were they benefits of teams being able to beat lower quality teams, though tight, they were able to beat lower quality teams in ways they probably shouldn't have. They probably should have won a lot better. So I want to see round 23. I'm going to say this is an overreaction right now, but if Carlton gets a hold of Collingwood and this is a 20, 30, 40 point win, then the moniker pretender may come out for Collingwood. I don't want it to, because I think Collingwood's, the fan base has come out, and it's been very interesting having this kind of odd kind of infatuation with Collingwood, the team, because I think a lot of people love Craig McRae and what he's done. So Collingwood has almost kind of become that likable team that I don't think most people thought would ever be likable, because Collingwood, again, was kind of like the New York Yankees of baseball over here. You either love them or hate them. There's no in between. There's no 50-50 with Collingwood for most people. It's love or hate. It is a simple split between the two. So
I think the team, it's a love or hate, but for the fans, for me, it's only hate. Their supporters are annoying as hell. I'm just I don't care. I'm sure there's good ones out there, but you guys on Twitter, you're so good at proving my points that you guys are douchebags. You're so good at proving that point. I'm not even trying. But the reply is to tell all.
I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I know a few Pies fans that are quite good. They're quite great people. So I can't sit here and say that every single Collingwood fan is a douchebag. Do I think the controversy? Let me just attack this really, really quickly. The controversy from the Sydney Swans fan base booing Jack Ginnivan when he was hurt. Let me address this really quickly. Does Taylor Adams have a gripe? Yes. Did he have a right to call the Swans fans grubs just because of the specifics in the optics, shall we say? Yes. But I also agree with what some of the Swans fans, and again, I'm not a booer. I think booing shows a lack of class. I don't see what does it do? Really? Is it supposed to intimidate them? No. You just sound really annoying. So let me get that off my chest. My other thing is that you want to watch it, Collingwood fans complaining about the booing, because it was also your fan base that started the booing of Adam Goodes. So be very careful with your morality on the booing, because you don't have too many legs to stand on that one. Again, I'm not condoning it. I don't like it. I didn't like it. I told many people online, it sickened me. I did not like seeing fans booing an injured player. Did they know? Probably not. They probably just saw Ginnivan on there. They thought, well, we don't like him, and they booed him. I don't know. I don't like
that.
That
actually makes a lot of sense. That theory holds a lot of water.
Especially in stadium, because you don't know. You're not. It's not like the people that are watching the television that know he's been subbed out. He has a hamstring injury. That's why he's not playing. That's why he's sitting on the bench. I mean, we know a little bit more than the people there, so I'm going to give a little bit of leeway there. But as I said, I don't like the booing. I thought the booing shows a lack of class on it. But I understand the vitriol, but then again, I said, be careful with how much vitriol Collingwood fans, because you don't exactly have a lot of legs to stand on, and the Swans fans do remember. And I've seen many, I saw a lot of the discussions. Again, I kind of 50-50'd it. Does it give us the right does it give them the right to boo an injured Ginnivan? No. Was it right to call it out? Yes. But again, be careful. So that's kind of one of those, that controversy. I thought it got blown up really, really quickly, and just, there was no winner. There's no winner. It just looks bad completely for the game. So.
Well, the only problem there is you're talking about consistency, and if the AFL is, and if just footy is anything, I would not call it consistent. And speaking about consistent, let's talk about Carlton losing. All right. So that's what happened in round 22. I'm going in on a couple teams this round. I'm not even doing it on purpose.
You got some big clubs you're throwing some darts at.
Dude, I'm going to get so many haters from this, I'm sure. Hey, but one thing, I have talked nicely about Richmond. So I'm still in the good graces of, some of the most savage fans that the internet knows, especially our YouTube comment section. But one thing I gotta say is, Carlton, I feel horrible for you guys, as fans, because this was just a gut-wrenching game. But and especially one of the critiques you can make from here is kind of going to the last statement, is that Melbourne got lucky against Carlton this round and do not deserve to be in the top 4.
Oh, this is one of those, half of it I agree with, half of it I don't. Like, this is like the first half, Melbourne got lucky. Yes. Carlton didn't play well, and a very almost perfect bounce led to Keziah Pickett's goal. So that
bounce, like, it looked like the ball was on the string, man.
That is evil. That is absolutely evil bounce.
That was so insane. And
Yep.
we could honestly talk for hours just about a bounce of a footy. That was
well, and how intelligent was Jake Lever's kick to center it instead of bombing it, instead of trying to bomb it down the line. And that's you got to give Jake Lever a little bit there, is that he sideways kicks it into the middle where he's got a 3-on-1 advantage, and after the 3-on-1 advantage, it's bombed in. And it gets to ground. Ben Brown gets it to ground, and then Pickett's able to find a way to grab it. And he's just able to avoid Nunes enough to get it on his boot, enough to get it through. So that's where I say Melbourne was lucky on that one, because everything that had to happen for them to score happened. But I'm not going to go the second half. I disagree with, because I still think they've won enough games. They deserve to be in the top 4. The issue that they run into, along with Brisbane, is that one of those two is not going to be there because they play each other. Their percentage is darn near equal, and the loser and the most likely lost team, unless they somehow pull a draw, is going to be out of the top 4. Because if the only way that they wouldn't be is if Collingwood falls and Fremantle lose. That's the only way that both teams would stay in the top 4. So that win becomes not much crazier, because now it gives them a chance to stay in the top 4 with a win over Brisbane, which again is not going to be easy. So this is half overreaction, half not. It is not an overreaction. Melbourne got lucky to win that game, plain and simply. Carlton probably should have won that game, which would have made all sorts of machinations for the final 8 even more interesting, because the top 8 would be set, but we wouldn't know where everybody is. With Carlton losing, it now leaves the chance for the Doggies to still get in. If Carlton drops against Collingwood and the Doggies win by enough, they'll get in by percentage. So there still is a chance Carlton may be out. But the second half, I believe Melbourne is good enough to be a top 4 team. It's just, can they get the win over the Brisbane Lions? Plain and simply, you win, you're in the top 4. You don't, you're most likely sitting 5th or 6th with Richmond, Carlton, or the Western Bulldogs to greet you in an elimination final.
And I'll just apologize for you guys, for those Saints fans, for Donnie just so, like, kind of rudely ignoring you guys from that conversation, be able to make the 8. As we talked about, you just have to win by 150, which is so in the realm of possibility. So, Donnie, how dare you leave them out? Imagine a world where the Saints win by 150.
I really should try to grab my iPad, see if I could get the ladder predictor to get to how many points they have to win by. But I don't think the ladder predictor goes up above 100 points. So I think that's because right now the Saints come into this with a 100.1 percentage. The Western Bulldogs have 107.9. So that is a 7% advantage. So if the Saints were to win, they need to make up basically 8 points at least, and hope the Doggies win by 1. Mathematically, so, I just don't know if
Doggies
it's possible.
Lose, Carlton loses, Saints win, and they win by 100 points. And let's go to Carlton, and let's say they lose by 100. Okay, maybe that's a little too much. Okay, so Carlton loses by 50, and St. Kilda wins by 100. They will make the finals with less than a percentage point over Carlton.
If Carlton lose by 50.
They have to lose by 50.
Geez.
No, I don't know if they'll lose by 50 is the thing. We're talking about them winning by 100 against the Swans. I feel like that's a bigger statement here.
Yeah, I highly...
it's possible, guys. Woo! St. Kilda to the finals. Let's go.
The ladder predictor only does 100 points. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Oh, you guys are so screwed. That's going to be so much fun, though.
Don't you love a podcast with math?
You know what? If this whole atomic rhino stuff is anything close to it, we're almost a podcast with meth. My word, that was great. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it for our overreactions for this round. Let us know your thoughts. Did Melbourne get lucky against Carlton? Is Collingwood just a bunch of pretenders? And did Richmond have the biggest proof of game? Or does that go to the Sydney Swans? And before we get to talking about, some things, including the best minor premiership team over the last 5 seasons, we're going to talk about a little bit of ruling controversy, which is something we've stayed away from, luckily, the last couple of rounds is what it feels like. But it's back. And the Clarko storyline has a bit of an update because Essendon is going to be moving on from their senior coach after the season. It looked like they're almost going to fire him before this round, and now it's going to be after the round. The whole Essendon thing was a little bit confusing as news broke there. And the Giants are out of the running because it looks like they're going to be signing Melbourne assistant Aiden. How do you pronounce his last name? I need
Adamuze.
Adam. Oh, my bad. I wrote down Aiden. Damn, autocorrect got me there.
Adamuze, yep. He's right. He's right now looked to be like. I don't mean to stomp on over you, but I will kind of. As far as I am aware, here is how everything gone.
Because I'm confused.
Basically,
too,
the Essendon board has met 3 times in the last 48 hours. It's been absolutely absolutely insane because basically the president was basically forced to resign. And then after the president was forced to resign, tons of rumors started flying out there that Truck, Ben Rutten, was going to be fired. And that because basically they wanted to be able to have the open seat to be able to woo Clarko. And it's just been nuts because there were tons of rumors Rutten was fired. Now Rutten's okay. Now Rutten's in the job. Rutten's been interviewed and Rutten thinks he's still coaching next year. So it has just been, and pardon my French, ladies and gentlemen, a clusterfuck for the last 48 hours at Telemarine at the Essendon Football Club. It has been absolutely insane, and it really has thrown Essendon has thrown a cat amongst the pigeons because if until all of this drama happened with Essendon, it was pretty much almost done for many people that North Melbourne had Clarko. Clarko was about to sign, but it's kind of one of those, it's almost like the meme that I see, and I've even seen somebody edit it perfectly, that it's the meme that's a guy holding his girlfriend's hands and another girl walks by and he turns his head, and it's basically it's the one girl he's holding hands with is North Melbourne, and it's Clarko's head on the guy's body with an Essendon jumper girl walking the other way. So it's been this very interesting discussion.
Also, props to you, Diane, for being able to fully articulate and describe the meme. That's hard to do sometimes. Good job.
So and because of all that, we also basically found out that Clarko told GWS, "I'm not interested in your job," which is the reason why Adamuze is really being discussed. I know some people still think that Hinkley could still be possible, though. Well, here's the thing, though. I'm also gonna squash this a little bit too.
Damn it!
Port Adelaide's board was not exactly happy with their president a couple weeks ago, kind of throwing Hinkley under the bus, shall we say, about potentially firing him. The board wasn't happy with him. That basically the board still thinks Hinkley is going to be their man next year. So that kind of, again, that one took a lot of twists and turns, but I think Hinkley is at Port Adelaide next year unless something crazy happens. Like, unless GWS just randomly decides that they really want Hinkley and want to throw the farm at him, I think Hinkley's at Port Adelaide. I think Adamuze is going to be your coach. It sounds like the GWS was super impressed with what he's done. He is looked at as one of the top assistants in the entire country when it comes to AFL and one of the best up-and-coming head coaches potentially there. honestly, my personal opinion, this is what I want. Again, I don't think I'm going to get what I want. I think Clarko ends up at North. I think Essendon is just it is an insane asylum right now. And I think if Clarko wants to jump into what is a list that I think just cannot make up its mind what it wants to be, I think he's going to end up at North Melbourne. I think Ben Rutten most likely is probably still going to be Essendon's coach next year, but he's going to be on a very, very short leash next season at Telemarine. I honestly, in the first 6 games, it will not shock me if they are not 3-3 or better. Rutten will find himself unemployed. It's what I think is going to happen. But again, I just don't know. I mean, Essendon could, woo Clarko, and Clarko ends up taking the Bombers job, which, it has been press released out there that it was one of the teams he thought he could coach and do well with when it comes to the list. So it'll be fascinating to watch that. But it has just been every podcast that I've listened to, just hearing these news people, they are all just, as soon as they think they know, some kind of twist happens. Like I said, the Essendon board has met more times this week than they have in probably the previous couple of months, because the president, you forced to resign. You're questioning whether the coach is going to be there. The CEO has to answer doorstop questions, whether Rutten is his coach. Has he talked to Clarko? Has he talked to Clarko? Clarko's in Adelaide, so now people are going, did they ever even speak to him? So there's just so much going on.
Well, Clarko
it is so hard to keep track of.
He's in Adelaide. He was in Adelaide for personal reasons.
Yeah, he was in Adelaide.
Anything for coaching.
Yep. So he hasn't been meeting with Essendon these last couple of days.
No.
So that's kind of the other thing that's, again, kind of thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works a little bit, because it's not like Essendon is sitting down right now with Clarko hammering out a contract and getting ready to come out on Friday with a press release saying that Clarko is their new head coach. Truck is going to get through the end of the season, and then then Clarko's going to take over. It hasn't happened, but it's just been a circus, and it's been insane.
Exactly. But also, speaking about the circus, I freaking love this story, dude. I don't know about you. I don't know about you guys listening, but this has been just as entertaining as some of the actual footy that we've seen this year, just because, like you were going on, how many twists and turns we've seen this Clarko storyline take. It's been fantastic. And you might think, like, I might be almost a little bit stressed out about it, but especially being a GWS supporter, but I'm not, because good news is Clarko isn't going to GWS. And if you caught the show a couple of weeks ago, I talked myself into being I talked myself into being cool, like kind of wanting Clarko to be there. I've talked myself into not wanting Clarko. It's a very interesting conversation. You're going to have to go check that one out, because it was great, because Donnie was like my little therapist, my footy therapist, if you will, because I was just kind of talking.
I somehow convinced you that Clarko, not getting Clarko may not actually be a bad thing. And I was actually impressed with myself listening to it later. I was like, actually made some really good points.
Yes, you did. See, so it worked out great.
So
but I'm still 100% in. I mean, no offense to Adam, but it's going to happen, Don. I know there's like a 5% chance, but Hinkley will be canned, and he will find himself in Greater Western Sydney, because I mean, even though that's probably not going to happen, if we're going to be honest with ourselves here, I'll maybe give it maybe a 3% chance of happening. I would love that. I would love to have Ken Hinkley as my next coach. But everything that I've heard about Uze would be real solid, especially gotten the Donnie stamp of approval, what it sounds like, along with the rest of the media. But of course, Donnie is the only media that matters besides just me and us in general. It's definitely better than the Victorian media. You guys are great. Oh man, I love. There we go. Finally, I found a way to work in with the Victorian media being weird. I just had to go talk about. Oh, I need to find a way to put in my other thing that I'm going to. I'm going to find a way. I missed my chance. I had a way better chance talking about it earlier in Overreaction segment, but I'm still going to put it in. You guys are going to have to wait and see what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. And we're going to see how I'm able to work this thing in.
Oh, boy.
So the way I feel, I know that "oh boy" is probably what a lot of people are saying, so I don't blame you. They probably actually say that anytime they see me open my mouth about footy, but it's okay at this point. Now, the weird thing, so this whole it's probably going to be North or Essendon. Like you said, I was going to ask, like, anyway, Port can work themselves into this thing? Probably not. But it's like, let's be realistic with ourselves. It's Essendon or North. North is going to be the one throwing a lot of money at him. But it seems like Essendon is probably the team with the list closer to being a finals contender. But also, Essendon doesn't know what they're doing as a club. So, I mean, there's a lot of – honestly, if you're Clarko, neither of these teams are really that ideal of a situation besides the money you're going to be paid.
It's a very interesting thing, because I've even seen a few pundits out there actually point out that they honestly think North Melbourne could probably bounce back quicker than Essendon. So it's been very fascinating to see, like, and then I've seen pundits the other way around that have said that if Clarko doesn't take the Essendon job, he's going to be 5-6 years before he even sees finals. So it really is kind of it's up for interpretation on what you think. I'm kind of sitting 50-50. I really don't see one having a massive advantage over the other. I think if Clarko comes into North, I still think it's a 2 or 3 year build before he finally gets himself a contender, shall we say. Essendon, I want to know how the players respond, because Essendon may have a list that just doesn't fit Clarko as well. So, like, Clarko is very meticulous on what he wants and how he wants it done. And if you don't, things could get dicey. So
exactly.
Clarko's going to be a coach next year. I have that feeling it's going to be North Melbourne or Essendon. It's going to be one of those two. I'm just not jumping to conclusions on that he's going to be this savior and is going to miraculously take his team to a finals in the first couple of years. I think it's going to be 3 years before he even sees the finals, because you can coach so much better, but if you have shit players, what can you do? I mean, you can only do so much with what you have. So we'll have to see.
All right, here we go. So what that means is Ross's official prediction where Clarko is going to be done like this. North Melbourne heads, Essendon tails. Let's flip a coin.
Jeez.
Come on. It's heads. He's going to North. All right, pack it up. We don't need any more articles done on this.
That's what I want.
Exactly. So we're good. It's going to happen. So just no need to talk about this until it happens, even though we're going to be talking about this for sure. Don't worry about that one. But another thing we're going to be talking about is the controversy around what it seems like the AFL made the right call, but then it went to the tribunal, and they got it wrong. They got it wrong upon further review, something the AFL is very good at doing, especially, at least from my perspective, being an American football fan, a Great Iron fan. Their review system sucks. The AFL review system is great, but when they review suspensions, apparently it's not so great, because Patrick Cripps is playing this round, and I'm just going to go full conspiracy theory. I don't care. It's because they need him to be playing against Collingwood to make it that much more interesting. I'm just going to say it. The league did this one on purpose, Donnie. I'm breaking out the tinfoil because who cares?
Rewind just the tiniest bit. Okay. Honestly, the league actually did the exact opposite than that. They did everything they could to make sure he was suspended. The issue that I run into, and again, we're kind of rolling over a couple of weeks ago, but in Carlton fans, please don't be upset with me. This is just my opinion. Whether it's right or wrong or not, I don't know. It just shows the does my head in inability of the AFL to be consistent. Honestly, this is my personal opinion. He should have been suspended. It should have stayed 2 weeks. None of this should even happen. Did he attack the footy? Yes. Did he need to attack the footy in the air? No, because it wasn't a marking contest. So him jumping up did nothing. It changed nothing. All it did was it rattled Calamarchi's brain, and now Calamarchi has a concussion. That's the only thing that it achieved. He did not win the footy. He didn't intercept the footy. He didn't change the footy. He didn't handball the footy. He did nothing except rattle Calamarchi. That is all he did. Okay. I understand it's it's a tenth of a second or a quarter, whatever percentage you want to go. He didn't have to jump. He didn't have to jump. You lose all argument when it comes to a contest if you don't have to jump because it's not a marking contest. Okay. Plain and simply. This is also screwed from the beginning because earlier in the season, Willie Rioli got off because Matt Rowell's got a hard head. Let's just be honest. If Matt Rowell gets concussed, Willie Rioli gets 2 weeks, and none of this happens. None of this happens. Cripps is suspended. There's no argument. There's no fighting to get in because it's black and white, the same thing. My other argument for people that are like, that's the reason he should have gone off. Well, true, because of prior precedents. But the other difference is that Willie Rioli's was a marking contest. So there's an excuse to jump. There is an excuse to jump. There is not an excuse to jump in a non-marking contest. So that means there was no mark to get, so he didn't have to leave his feet. He could still body contact. So it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating because don't tell me AFL and don't tell me league that you want to protect the head and then don't punish this. He gets off on a legal technicality. Had nothing to do with footy, had nothing to do with it. All it basically was, he got off on a legal technicality because of the wording that the AFL did when they sent it to the tribunal. Plain and simply. It is a word fuck up is the reason that Paddy Cripps is playing. Let's just be honest. That is it. It won't surprise me if a lot of AFL fans become Collingwood supporters because they want to see Carlton waste their time getting Paddy Cripps back for them to lose both games and still not make the finals. And again, I know a lot of Carlton fans. I respect Carlton fans. I know they've dealt with a lot of stuff. It'd be great to see them in the finals. All due respect to the Doggies, I think Carlton would be a much better finals team than the Doggies. Again, Doggies fans, I'm sorry, but that's just the honest truth. But I'm more worried Carlton's going to lose this game because I still think Collingwood is still a pretty solid team, even without Ginnivan, even if Tagoe isn't back. I still think Collingwood is playing better footy than Carlton is overall because Carlton have so many injuries and so many missing pieces on a team that was dominant, and they've kind of lost their identity. They're not the same team that they were in the first 10 games of the season when they went 8-2. They're not. They are completely different. The contest footy is not their strength right now. They are not playing good contest footy and winning it out of the middle as much as they were dominating earlier. So Cripps probably shouldn't be there. Again, he's there. There's nothing we can change at it. But the AFL during this offseason, they need to black and white this darn rule to where this doesn't happen. Because it is becoming a farce to me. The guys are getting off on legal technicality. It's so frustrating.
Don, you can't have them black and white the rule because apparently Collingwood owns those colors, or we're going to call it something else besides that.
That was a good one. I'll give it.
There we go. Finally got him to laugh.
There we go.
Poor Adelaide. I am still with you guys, even though I want your head coach. Even though a lot of you guys really don't want your current head coach, so I'll just take him off your hands. Like it's a win-win for both of us.
Gosh.
Let's go. Let's do this thing. Oh, we love you guys. We love you, Port. Bring back the prison bars. Also, throw it back to what Donnie said a couple rounds ago, why you guys should just wear them anyway, because it's not going to do a damn thing in the grand scheme of things. But with those things said, let's know your thoughts. Should Chris been suspended? And where do you think Clarko is going to end up? The coin has spoken, so your kind of comments are really just going to be in vain. But still would love to see your opinion nonetheless. Respect the coin, though. All right? But we're going to hop into, before we get to Donnie's team of the round and our tips for round 23 of the season, it's time to hop into what the blank, because there's a lot of stuff we got to talk about, including this damning stat if you are a Geelong Cats supporter. So this is going to be a bit of an interesting one. And also, let's talk heartaches, because there's a team that suffered the most this year. But of course, for those that don't know how the segment works, I got 3 statements for Donnie, and they have a blank at either the beginning, the middle, or the end. And it's up to him to fill in the blank with whatever he so chooses. Could be a word, could be a whole sentence, could be a paragraph. Do not care. It is up to him. And starting us off, blank is the best minor premier winner over the last 5 seasons. And to jog your guys' memory, for those that don't know, this dates back to 2018, including this year. All right. So we have Richmond, Geelong, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, and Geelong.
Alrighty, so a little bit of background on it in the podcast before we got started recording. I walked Ross a little bit through the last 5 minor premiers, and kind of pointed out a statistic: the fact that the minor premiership is something that, as cool as it sounds, does not always breed a championship, including the previous 4 seasons, which will include the 5 of this, did not win the premiership. Answering the question in the blank, it would be the 2018 Richmond Tigers, because of the premiership winners, they had the biggest margin. They had an 8-point margin when it came to second place, when it came to at the final ladder positioning, where other ones had percentages or 2 points for the other 3 that have rounded out. I believe Geelong most likely will probably win theirs by 8 points as well. But I'm interested to see how that goes, because, again, Geelong has played some not as strong teams to end the season. So we'll have to see how that goes. And, again, how do they go in the finals? Do they go like 2000 Richmond 18 that falls in the preliminary final? Or can they get to the final and be only the second premier in the previous 10 seasons to actually win a premiership? So we'll have to see on that. But it is hard not to argue that Richmond team went into the finals and everybody said they were going to win the finals. There was nobody that made it that had a chance to beat them. And then Mason Cox and Collingwood happens. So that's literally the way
Mason
it was.
Cox, the greatest American player of all time, the greatest American Australian footy player of all time to ever grace the cricket grounds or any other kind of grounds that take place in Australia. The greatest athlete of all time, Mason Cox. It's time for us to all respect him. And damn it, Donnie, thanks for teaming me up. I wasn't planning on that because I still was able to get it in. Let's go. Mason Cox, love you.
It's hard not to tee that one up, because that's exactly what happened. Is Mason Cox in the preliminary final goes absolutely bonkers in the first quarter, and Richmond really does not ever really recover from that one. And
that's why I fell in love with him too, because I think that's my first actual time watching the finals. Is a footy fan, and just saw Mason Cox, and it's like that's my guy. That's my guy right there. I love him so much. We made a shirt by him. Of course, you go find that over at fourthandlong.com/apparel to show your support for Mason Cox and the show, because we love Big Cox. All right, Donnie, I will stop interrupting for a second.
No, you're good. So I would. It's hard not to argue that is it. The Richmond is your best premier of the last 5 seasons. Just when it comes to dominance, again, they didn't win a premiership. Does Geelong win a premiership this year? We'll definitely have to see. I know Melbourne won a premiership last year, so it has happened. But again, they had to win that one on the final day and after the siren kick. So there was a little bit of the D's really didn't hit their full-fledged powers until they got to the finals that year. So if you just when it comes to it, the minor premiers, it's hard not to argue it's Richmond.
Right. And the interesting thing that we're talking about for Geelong, so since the year 2000, not much has changed, but they live underwater. For those who understand that reference, my word, we had, man, you need better taste in music because mine sucked too. Donnie, that's a Jonas Brothers reference from me in elementary school.
Oh, boy.
I can't believe I'm talking about the Jonas Brothers in 2022. And, man, I need to rethink my life after we got the show. But what I was going back to is that since the year 2000, there's only been 7 teams that have won the grand final after finishing the season as minor premiers. Of course, that was last year. North. That was Melbourne. Obviously not North Melbourne. I don't think that's ever going to happen in my lifetime. 2013, it was Hawthorn. In 2010, it was Collingwood. And then it happened back-to-back years in 2006 and 2007 with West Coast and Geelong, respectively. And then there was Port Adelaide in 2004. In the year 2000, it was Essendon. Times have certainly changed in history, and time has not been great to some of these teams, but only a handful of them, less than half, or no, almost less than 25% of the time this happens. So Geelong, and one thing that Diane saw too is that a lot of the time they just end up as runners up too. They for the grand final, so heartbreak even.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I remember Lee Montagna bringing up that topic one time in a First Crack episode. He goes, if you want to win a premiership, you don't want to finish minor premiers. You want to finish second or third, because what was it, something like 65 to 70% of the premiership winning team or the grand final winning team have finished second or third over the last 10 or 12 years. It's been insane. So it almost is this funny statistic that's like, is Geelong sitting in the catbird seat, or are the Swans and then whoever wins most likely between the D's and the Lions sitting in the catbird seat? Because whoever wins that 2 versus 3 matchup usually is pretty strong going into that preliminary final, because they played a tougher team of the 4. So it'll be fascinating to see how it goes. Again, last year, I mean, the D's proved that theory wrong, but it's 1 year. Does it happen again? I mean, if Geelong wins it again, could we start seeing this premiers winning both minor and the premiership? So we'll have to see. It's very fascinating.
Well, congrats to Bloods Nation, because you guys might as well just schedule the victory parade already. You guys are going with the premiership this year.
Got to get by the Saints before we lock up second or third.
Right? Don't call me a jinx.
The ladder's still not set yet. If the Saints somehow beat the Swans most likely are sitting 5th or 6th. So
you mean especially after the Saints beat the Swans by 100 points, and then Carlton wins by 50, and the Western Bulldogs lose? Heck yes, it's going to be fun. But
which is really funny, because that might set up a rematch between the two teams.
Even
because St. Kilda would be then 8th, and I think Sydney would still have a chance to be 5th.
Oh, that would be so stupid.
So you could literally love it. Well, and that's the other thing too, is if Carlton wins, you could see Carlton Collingwood again the next game in the elimination final.
Oh, even
if Carlton wins,
fun.
there's a possibility that Carlton could be 7th, and you could get 6-7 between Collingwood and Carlton. So you could see them play each other twice in 2 games.
We're in for fun no matter what happens, ladies and gentlemen. But some fans that have not been having fun this season, there is a handful of teams that you could pick to be candidates for this, because statement number 2, Donnie, the fans of blank have suffered the most heartache this season.
I've talked about them so much because they have went through so much, and that's Port Adelaide. That 5-game losing streak absolutely hammered them earlier in the year, and they've just been teased all year. They got to the fact when we were talking, and when I did my ladder predictor, they were the team I thought could get into the finals. And 2 consecutive losses, a couple of bad performances. Yeah, so it's like, it's the headaches. In a good way would be Collingwood, but in the headaches in a bad way, it's Port Adelaide, and it's by the Flemington Strait if you really look at it this year.
Oh, it sucks, man. And how painful is it going to be? Especially besides like Collingwood, they've really just been kind of really putting the hurt on some of these teams here late in the stretch, so, especially against Essendon, man. That game got ugly real quick. So it just... Oh, I'm sorry. We love you guys too, especially when Collingwood's just being a bunch of douchebags over who gets to wear certain colors. That's what I'll say it there. It's been a little bit tough, and we really do feel bad for you guys. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, so we could hopefully talk you up some more. We're here for motivation and positive reinforcement. We got you guys. But let's take a little sneak peek at round 23 before we get to our tips, of course, because Donnie, the biggest game of round 23 is blank.
It's obvious. It's Collingwood Carlton. Plain and simple. As much as Brisbane, Melbourne is fascinating because of the machinations that it could throw to the finals. I mean, this game is going to get 90,000. This game is going to be the game everybody talks about, because it is do or die really for both teams, because Collingwood, your nugget is you're a top 4 if you win. You are a top 4 team if you win this game. No matter what happens, you're a top 4 team. Carlton, if you want to make the finals, you got to win. So there's so much intrigue in this game that you can't argue it at all. Melbourne, Brisbane, it really is. I mean, losers out of the top 4, winners into the top 4. I mean, they're both making the finals. So there's a little bit of intrigue taken out of it, just the tiniest bit. And they've already played. Collingwood Carlton played in that epic game earlier in the season that came down to a final, came down late in the game that Collingwood ended up winning. So, I mean, I just don't see how it's not, because this game has been so hyped, because I mean it's sold out at the MCG. There's not a ticket to be found.
Oh, that's so damn cool. I can't wait to watch that, man.
And the fact that this is one of the last games of the round, meaning by the time this game ends, even before the Sydney St. Kilda, we could maybe potentially already know who are the 8, who are they playing, and where. Because of this result. This result literally could set the entire table, because the Doggies will have already finished before this game is over, since they play 2 hours before down in UTAS. So we're gonna know right off the bat, are the Doggies testing to where if Carlton lose, the Doggies are in or not. So the live ladder in this game alone is going to be insane, just because of they're going to be testing. If Carlton is losing, they're going to be putting up the percentages of where the Doggies are and whether they're in or out. So it'll be absolutely fascinating. I mean, Sydney, really the only intrigue in that Sydney game is Sydney if Sydney wins, can they get second place when it comes to percentage? Because Sydney's going to know how many points they're going to need to win by, because of the Brisbane-Melbourne game early in the round. They're going to know what percentage they're going to need to be at, and most likely how many points they're going to need to win by to be able to surpass that and stay in second and get that double chance and stay at the SCG until the grand final in the MCG, unless they lose. So.
And that would be some damn good action right there. Of course, with it being such damn good action, make sure to tune in to our live stream watch along, our little watch companion we got going on for Carlton and Collingwood. Of course, I work late nights now since I'm at a restaurant. I'm making, restaurant jobs is sweet. Especially in America, where we have to tip, where that's a whole can of worms in its own right. I don't know what it is in Australia. Do they tip in Australia?
I believe they tip, but they also pay a little bit more than when it comes to it. They still at least get minimum wage even for a restaurant worker. Where some of the laws over here in the States, unfortunately, they can pay less because of tips. They can pay less than minimum wage. So it's. Oh
yeah, I definitely get
the fun of our labor driven laws, unfortunately. So.
You gotta love them,
or you gotta hate them, depending on how you.
Or you really do hate them. But that's besides the point, listen. We're not going to be talking about labor laws. We're going to be talking footy. Come join us on YouTube. We should be, at the latest, be starting before the second quarter. If depending on what time I get off of work, we're going to be starting by the time the game starts. Heck yeah! So just hope that's I actually get out on time, and we'll be there for the full live stream of the game, and that is just going to be a blast. That's going to be Saturday night in the States / morning even in the States, and that is going to be the Sunday afternoon game for you guys over in Aussieland. But with that being said, before we get to our tips and full predictions and kind of ladder breakdown for the finals and for round 23, it's time, Donnie, for your team of the round. This round, another round where we made it without any double players, I think, too. So congrats.
All right. So let's jump right into it. Round 22 it was a very interesting round when it came to performances, especially. So let's jump right into it. We always start in the defenders. This guy's most likely going to make the All-Australian team, even after missing a few games of suspension. Geelong's Tom Stewart with another incredible game for the Catters again against the Gold Coast Suns. Melbourne's Angus Brayshaw. I know he's been going into the midfield a little bit more, so his statistics are bumped up a little bit, but he's still classified as a defender, so I'm going to give him a defender spot in this situation. Again, the story that is Sam Docherty. A lot like Ben Cunnington coming back and playing super, super well. Got to give him a nod of the cap. West Coast gets a player in, and that's Liam Duggan. I got to give him, he played really, really well for the Eagles in the all-out slugfest that was the Western Derby. Hawthorns' James Sicily, I know he went into the midfield a little bit more this game, which I think was something he was bashed on a little bit. The coach was bashed on a little bit for pulling him away from Tom Lynch, but still put up some good numbers, so I'm going to put him in the defensive slot. Last but not least, Port Adelaide's Dan Houston with a great game again. Essendon, the stomping of Essendon makes it easy to put up even good numbers as a defender. So Houston gets the last spot on the defense. In the ruck, Mr. Sam Darcy, you win the medal for the Western Derby. It's hard not to make you the ruck of the round. We jump to the midfield. The man with more names than than letters, North's Luke Davies Uniacke, showing why he's being talked about as a young up and coming star that I think North fans have a lot to look forward to watching this young man grow in the blue and white stripes. Geelong's Brandon Parfit in a star-studded midfield. This gentleman had a heck of a game here, playing really, really well. Melbourne's Clayton Oliver, again, Clary Oliver, just an incredible ball magnet, finds a way. He doesn't always hit the scoreboard as much as Petrarca does, but he finds ways to help his teams out. Richmond's Dion Pressia, again, showing why he is a linchpin in the Richmond midfield this year and could be an absolutely critical piece to whether Richmond goes far or not in September. Port's Zach Butters, again, when you play Essendon and they play like absolute you know what, it's easy to put up statistics. Mr. Butters did exactly that. Got to give him a tip of my cap. Forward, this is fascinating that Mason Wood is my first forward. Incredible start off and kind of making up for the fact that the King brother at St. Kilda did not have a very good game. He slots 4 in his return to the forward line for the St. Kilda Saints. Brisbane's Cam Reyna, again, showing why his loss to an ACL a couple of years ago was a massive loss for the Brisbane Lions. Just an incredible player up front. Forward, Geelong's Jeremy Cameron, again, finding his way in. The one thing, if you're a Geelong fan, you're a little concerned is that he has a tight hamstring. Whether he'll be back for that first final or not is really going to be down to how his recovery goes. Melbourne's Jake Melsham puts up 4 goals after all the drama that had happened this year with him being the guy that punched Stephen May after all of the drama, after all the drunken night out. Richmond's Tom Lynch, I mean, you kick 8 goals, you can't not be in the team of the week. And Mr. All work and very little play for the Port Adelaide Power, Mr. Sam Powell Pepper is the last forward on the starting lineup. We go to the bench. Defenders, Gold Coast, Brandon Ellis. Midfielder, and from Brisbane, Hugh McCluggage. The Rock, Mr. Max Gawn of the Melbourne Demons. And last but not least, the forward from the Adelaide Crows, Mr. Darcy Fogarty. Round out Coach Hess's team of the round.
Of course, the only list that matters. Donnie, thank you for putting together your team of the round. I've always said I'm super excited to see what happens and what kind of forms your all Australian team that you'll be releasing a little bit later this year too. And hell, I don't know what. Maybe I throw it out there. And after the finals are over and the premiership winner is crowned, we'll do a all finals team as well.
Oh, we can do that. I could probably put together an all finals team of the round. It'll be interesting though, with a few players having bigger games than others, but I can pull that out. We'll also premiere my all Australian team in our finals preview in a couple of weeks. And do we want to let out our little surprise that we may have, Ross?
Oh, maybe just give it a little bit of a hint.
We can get a little bit of a tease. Normally, we do Mr. Brian Barish, and I love Brian to death, but I'm able to bring back a former guest in Donnie's Disposals that really wants to join us for the grand final preview. So this is a little tip. A former Donnie's Disposals interview is going to be our special guest for the finals review podcast.
Oh, let's go. I'm so
Keep
excited.
An eye out, ladies and gentlemen. Oh. It's coming and you're going to love it.
I'm just super pumped because I'm going to be in the same chat room as a guy. And I love that interview, man. He's amazing. Oh, I guess that's a bit of a hint too. Oh,
I love it. Whoopsie.
Well,
that eliminates several from
that
contention.
well, shit.
That's all right. We'll have to
it's
see.
gonna be fun anyway. So you guys are going to want to tune in no matter what the tease, and maybe
see how many people
like
catch in the
3.
YouTube comments.
Right. This is gonna be fun. There's like 3. Maybe it wasn't actually a he. Maybe I'm just playing with you guys. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I don't know what we're doing.
Ross,
but what I do know, I think we're going to get into our tips. It's time to get into our tips for round 23, the last round of the regular season. It hurts to say that, but it's also super exciting because it is about to go down. And start us off is going to be the game that they absolutely got right. It's for it being the Friday night game of this round. Brisbane in Melbourne at the Gabba. I will side with the slight favorites here. I'll take Brisbane over Melbourne.
I'm one of those, and I'm actually with you on this one. I've got Brisbane because the Gabba is a little bit of a different animal. Melbourne surviving Carlton concerns me a little bit. Did Brisbane survive the Saints a little bit? Yes, but I think Brisbane overall played a little bit more of a consistent game in that one. I like the fact that the game is up in the Gabba. I think is going to help me with this one a little bit. This is really a 50-50 for me because I think if Melbourne can get their game going like they did earlier in the year, they can win. But Brisbane is really good at the Gabba. So I'm going to tip Brisbane in this one. But this is a coin toss for me. I think this one is really, really close. I'm hoping for an absolute belter on Friday night.
You said coin toss?
Yep. Oh, geez, he's actually going to do it.
Oh, that means Brisbane still wins anyway. Well, great. Landing on heads. It's my trigger word now. You say coin toss or flip. I'm just going to bring up the coin. Oh, man. I'm looking forward to this next game being over because I can finally get on with this depressing season.
Oh, my gosh. As soon as the way he said that, I knew exactly what game he's talking about.
GWS. Fremantle at Canberra. Oh.
Manuka Oval in Canberra.
Yep. Freo's winning.
I think Freo's winning, but I
even the horrible keep an eye on this.
Keep an eye on this one. Keep an eye on this one. Traveling all the way across country. This is a difficult travel. From Perth to Sydney is not a short travel. Keep an eye on how Fremantle responds in this one. This could be one of those. Can GWS find a way to nick a team that maybe is kind of going to want to try to coast to get through this game? Fremantle win this one, but I think GWS is in this a little bit more. The only thing that bugs me is the fact Toby Green is out. Toby Green is out for the rest of the year after having surgery, so that really hurts them. But I just have this weird feeling Fremantle cannot take GWS lightly in this one. I think Fremantle wins it, but I think this is a squeaker. I think this is a trap game for Fremantle. They cannot take GWS lightly.
You know, the next one, I was really thinking about doing a bit of a fireworks show for the bold tip of the round to cap things off for the regular season, especially looking at the best odds where the Cats are, or West Coast, shall we say, is $15 underdogs to Geelong. So I was almost like, hey, let's send it. But I gave myself, and we're still sending it, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a little bit less of a send, a little bit more realistic one because North Melbourne is going to knock off Gold Coast in the battle of the two lovable, sucky teams of the league.
I'm gonna go Gold Coast as much as I would love to see North Melbourne get a win for Ben Cunnington, especially after coming back from his issues. I just think Gold Coast has a little too much talent, a little too much cohesion. I think Gold Coast has just run into some good teams over these last few rounds and just haven't played as well as they did there for that little stretch. So I'm going to go with Gold Coast in this one, but I do agree with you. I think North Melbourne keeps this a little bit closer, especially being at Marvel.
Yeah. Not going to get maybe the soft little bit of football that we see over at a home game for Gold Coast. Of course, it's in Metricon. I did not just blink on their home grounds name for a second. Definitely not me. No, sir. I don't do that thing. Let's go GMHBA, where we're going to see the Geelong Cats slaughter the West Coast Eagles. We already know who I'm tipping in this one.
No, Geelong wins this one. I think even without Jeremy Cameron, I still think Geelong's just a little too good. The fact that Geelong is able to rest some of their players over these last few weeks makes me a little bit frightened of this Geelong team. If they can stay fresh and healthy, right. They're extremely deadly. The Jeremy Cameron injury may make me a little nervous come finals, but this game I'm not nervous. Even Cameron not being there, I still think the Cats are just a little too good.
Yes, sir. Speaking about being too good for this team, let's talk about how Richmond is going to be Essendon and secure themselves a spot in the finals once again.
I'm with you on this one. A few weeks ago, I would have said Essendon because I thought Essendon was starting to find their mojo, but unfortunately, as we have seen, Richmond has started to play well. Essendon has started to play not well. So I'm going to go with the Tigers on this one to get the big win and solidify their spot in the finals, and maybe solidify their spot as being the deadly team in the elimination finals when it comes to teams in contention.
Right, I'm right there with you. I would not want to play the Tigers, man. They're horrifying to play anytime when it comes to finals, unless their team they're playing against is led by the greatest American Australian football player of all time, Mason Cox. The second time getting that one, I don't care. And the next game, let's start down the showdown going down round 23. Port Adelaide and Adelaide. Technically, Port is going to be the home team in this one at the Oval, and I'm going with them. And I'm going with them in the other prediction that Donnie, they listen to you. Of course, Port Adelaide listens to the show, and they're going to be rocking the prison bars because it doesn't matter their punishment. And I think they lose some points. I think they forfeit like 4 points or something like that. They're missing finals anyway. Who cares? Where are the prison bars? Screw Collingwood.
I'm with you on this one. I got Port. I think Port's just played a little bit too better. Robbie Gray with his retirement game, I think he has a chance to potentially get another showdown medal, which would then only add to his lead in showdown medal winners. As much as I like the Crows, I think the Crows have been playing decent, well organized football. I think Port Adelaide just has a little too much. Port Adelaide is much stronger list-wise going into this game than they were earlier in the season when Dawson had to win it after the siren. So I'm going to tip Port in this one to even out 1-1 this year in showdowns.
And if Ken Hinckley wants a job next year with Port Adelaide, probably has to win this one. Otherwise, the board might be changing their minds a little bit. The showdown has some real significance, especially be able to finish the year on a high note. Definitely will bode well for Ken Hinckley, but it won't bode well for me. I hope he loses this one, goes to GWS, and now we're all going to be happy. It's happening, Donnie. I'll take the 3%. 3% chance it's going to happen. And there's a way bigger percent chance of the Doggies beating Hawthorn this round than just 3%. In fact, tippers have it at 87% on the AFL website, and I definitely am going to agree with them, even though it's going to UTAS. Hawthorn has been in shambles the last few rounds, and the Doggies, we saw against GWS where they didn't look great for most of that game. There was like a minute where they put up 4 goals, so they can explode at any time.
Yeah, this is one of those. I think that the Hawks have kind of hit that wall, a young team hitting the wall late in the season where they don't have the same pizzazz that they did earlier in the year. I think the Doggies win this one. But this is one of those that's odd because it's like, I believe that the way my tips go, I think the Doggies will make the finals because I think they're going to just beat Hawthorn enough to at least make sure the percentage is there to get them into the finals, which kind of previews my tip for the next one. But I'm almost worried if the Doggies make it, does it lower the standard of finals a little bit because the Doggies have not been playing good football?
Now there's a question. The big one, Donnie, the big one of the round, Carlton, Collingwood at the MCG. The odds are even in this one, but the tipping percentages are very close, but not even. I'll take the Magpies in this one just because I really don't trust the Carlton Blues.
I'm with you on this one. I think the Blues the injuries that they have, I think are devastating. I think this is going to come in super emotional. I think the Pies, if they just approach it with just play your game, Just do what you need to do. Don't try to overly play this game. Don't try to make up for last week's loss to the Swans. I don't think Carlton is going to be as dangerous as the Swans are when it comes to pressure. I think the Pies get this one done. I still think this one's close. I think it's the Pies' DNA to win games close. So I think this is one. It's less than 2 goals. I think this is an 8-point win by the Pies. I think they survive. And unfortunately, I think Carlton falls just a little bit short and falls out of the finals, which is a little bit sad because they have been so good this season, but you got to play better footy at the right time of the season. So I'm going to tip Pies on this one.
That's for damn sure. In the same way where I don't trust Carlton, I do not trust St. Kilda to beat Sydney, let alone beat them by 100 points. So I'll take Sydney this one in the last game of the regular season.
As a Swans fan, this is another trap game that scares me because this is a
How many trap games have they had this year?
For me, sometimes you could almost say as a Swans fan, you could say every game is a trap game for Sydney. Sometimes, especially when you got a team that honestly they come in, they really don't have a ton to play for. They just got to play reckless footy. Which if the Swans play their game the way they can actually make the Saints pay for this one. I think the Swans win this one. I don't think it's a massive win. I think maybe 4 goals max. I think St. Kilda has enough talent and skill that they'll stay in this game. They'll give Swans fans heart palpitations because it'll only be 2 or 3 goals for most of the game. But I think the Swans' class and ability will be able to hold on. I just think it's close. It's closer than I think some Swans fans would want, but I have the Swannies winning this one as well.
Ooh, that is how we're going to cap things off. Our last bit of tips for the regular season of the AFL. This is going to be a lot of fun. We'd love to see your guys' thoughts on this one and the biggest games you're looking forward to, and maybe the games on here that were the hardest ones to tip. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for our coverage of round 22 of the AFL season. We've been over a lot of things, such as, Cripps maybe getting off lightly. We're talking updated Clarko odds for the coaches, but the coin has spoken. And is Collingwood just pretenders, or are they going to be able to prove themselves in this round of footy? Another team that has a chance to make a big prove-it statement is Melbourne. Are they going to be able to get it done over the Lions? Time will tell. But a couple things before we get to the send-off here is Don has been releasing a couple fantastic interviews over the last week. And so one of them being a stud of an AFLW player for the Sydney Swans. Donnie, break us down. What do we have to look forward to once we're done listening to this show?
Oh man, if you want to put out a couple of episodes of the last couple of weeks, the latest one that just came out is AFLW star Alicia Newman, who is one of our more experienced players for the Swans this year, and an absolutely incredible interview because she's my first ever Indigenous heritage, an Indigenous player that I've actually had the opportunity to talk to. So that was absolutely fantastic to hear a little bit of her Indigenous. In fact, if you want to watch the YouTube video, and I say this, watch the YouTube video, you get a preview of her Indigenous painted boots. She does art, Indigenous art herself, and she actually previewed her boots that she's going to be wearing in these first few rounds this year. And it's absolutely fantastic to see that. I thoroughly appreciate her taking the time out of her day to sit down and have a talk with me. I know my fellow Swans fans of ones that have listened to it have absolutely enjoyed hearing a little bit of insight onto the AFLW team that we have the pleasure of seeing in a little over a week. I mean, it is insane to think the AFLW will start during the off week of the men's season, which is the bye week after this next round. So it is insane to think a little over a week. We have AFLW round 1. I cannot wait for that. And the other one I put out, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one, was Dr. Casey Simons, has worked a ton in footy and is also in academics and does a lot of research on sporting and fandom and things like that. It was absolutely fantastic chat to kind of find out what fandom is all about and some of the things that happen that you may not even think about that could be affecting other people. That I just absolutely, she was fascinating interview. And then her pet project of Siren Sport, which is a women's based sports broadcasting and writing website that I think is absolutely fantastic. And then if I believe correctly from recording tomorrow, I believe I have one more with also from Siren Sports, Mrs. Kirby Fenwick, who I cannot wait to talk with about kind of her journey in footy and footy journalism. So that is what I've got going on. We will have an AFLW season preview coming out early next week that will also come off with our round review on that. Or Ross, I was going to double check with you. Do we want to do our round review next week, or do we want to save that for just before before the finals review?
Oh, I think we're going to do our round review next round, or next week for you guys, and then we'll get the finals one out.
We just won't tip.
Okay. Pretty much. We're going to take a look at round 23. We're going to take a look only at round 23. We're going to say all the fun, juicy final stuff for when we have our guest superstar taking center stage on the show. Oh, there we go. How's that for a promo? But all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be great. But Donnie, if Collingwood was a pie, what kind of pie would they be?
Oh boy, if Collingwood was a pie. Oh man. Oh,
you can't say mag either.
They're definitely going to be I almost want to go. They're going to be a little bit of a sweet and sour pie, because they have their moments of absolutely being sweet with their late wins, but they have been rather sour at times in their losses. So some kind of sweet and sour pie, a way to do a little bit of both, almost like sweet and sour chicken. So.
Oh, okay. Donnie wants to put sweet and sour chicken into a pie crust. Interesting. Another show where I definitely don't put words into my co-host's mouth. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to our breakdown for this round. Please go ahead, do yourselves a favor. Stop listening to this one right now. Go ahead and listen to the most recent interviews coming from Donnie, and maybe catch up on some other rounds that you have missed. But with that being said, it's been so great. I missed you guys last week, and we finally got that. We're back, all right, and back. And that's all that matters, because we're here right in time for finals. It's going to be damn good. Catch us on the stream come Saturday for States, or Sunday for even some of the States, and in Australian time for Collingwood vs. Carlton. It's going to be a banger. Hope to see you guys in that one, and we'll definitely see you in a round 23 breakdown.